Diablo is one of the most beloved video game franchises of all time, and now Diablo Immortal is here, the newest entry into the franchise. And it's become clear that the Diablo that people loved is dead and buried, and its corpse is being paraded around like some kind of Weekend at Bernie's style charade. And not because the game is bad. In fact, most people agree the game itself is very fun and really well made. The problem is how pay to win it is. The microtransactions in this game are a whole new breed of scummy. Not even Ed Netty would have come up with a scam like this. I swear to God, the microtransaction model must have been designed by Mr. Krabs. I'm honestly shocked that it's not charging you for using your own Wi-Fi to play the game. Every single piece of this game has an accompanying microtransaction with it to speed up progress, to give you loot, give you buffs, whatever, gems, anything you can imagine. There's a microtransaction for it in the game. And it's packing meat. Some of them are expensive, and there's so many of them, and it incentivizes you heavily to engage in dropping at least a little bit of money sometimes. It's like a drug dealer who's just giving you free samples to get you hooked, like, hey, first one's free. In Diablo Immortal, it's the first one's cheap, the first one's like 80 cents or $1, and you get an 800% buff, why wouldn't you just give $1 to help improve the flow of the game, the progress, it's just $1, right? That's no big deal. And then as you continue to progress, it gets more and more expensive, and eventually it's just a ton of money outright, all the way to the tune of about $100,000 to fully max out a character, one character, with all of the max gems and everything. 100,000 real-world doubloons, 100,000 of your hard-earned clams for a single character in Diablo Immortal. Fucking wild. Now, of course, these are estimates from the players. Right now, the game's still early. No one's whaled 100 grand to my knowledge, but this is everything they've calculated through data mining, as well as just all of the stats and numbers that have been crunched. So I trust the community to be accurate with it, since they've gone like turbo detective mode on it to really digest how pay to win the game is. And everything that they've found and everything that I've read about, it's wild. I've never seen anything like this. It's just blatant trash. It is just absolute blatant greed, no mask, just coming full throttle. We want your money, and we want all of your money, the full amount in your wallet, into our game. It makes FIFA loot boxes look good. So let's go over it a little bit and dive in a bit deeper. Probably know the answer to this, but would you play Diablo Immortal? No. I was reading about it, and I watched Ziz's video on it yesterday. It is crazy how greedy this game is. Like, even more so than most pay-to-win games on mobile. So apparently this claim is accurate. To fully max everything on a single character, it'll cost around 100 grand. Of real money. It's wild. And another crazy thing, so there's so many levels to their pay-to-win scheme, but if you engage in pay-to-win, you have to log in every day to keep some of the items. So let's say you whale out. You get a little hog wild with mommy's credit card, and you put in quite a bit of money, and you get the shit you want. You'll have to log in daily, and if you miss a day, you lose it. You can just lose the items that you paid to win with, because you didn't log in for a day. Or 2 days, however long it is, I don't remember. I think it varies based on the item and the pay-to-win level. Oh, it's beyond greedy. It is shocking. And I will say, you guys know I'm not a big ARPG guy, but Diablo Immortal actually looks like a fun ARPG. If it wasn't this blatantly scummy, I think it probably would have been a good, well, and it probably still is if you don't pay for it, a good game. Now, Diablo Immortal's had a really rocky history. The second it was announced, it was immediately infamous. People hated it before it ever even came out because Blizzard announced it at BlizzCon in a really shitty, douchey way. So they threw out Diablo Immortal, it's going to be mobile, and then people weren't super excited, and they go, what, you guys don't have phones? Well, what kind of response is that? People were just expecting like a Diablo 4 or something, and they're getting a mobile game, so they're rightfully, not as hype as you would expect. And meanwhile, they're getting upset and offended about it. Like, come on, dipshits, you have mobile devices. Everyone's going to be playing Diablo Immortal on their phones. Every phone's going to come pre-installed with Diablo Immortal. What the fuck is wrong with you losers? Fucking nerds. And then, of course, it led to the viral clip where one of the BlizzCon viewers came up to ask a question to the employees during a Q&A and said, is this an out-of-season April Fool's joke with the Diablo Immortal announcement? So from the very get-go, people weren't excited about this game. And I honestly believe the announcement of Diablo Immortal was marking the decline of Blizzard as a company as a whole. Blizzard was worshipped for pretty much the entire history of his existence. People have worshipped, kissed the ground Blizzard has walked on until Diablo Immortal. That was the first time I can think of where Blizzard fans finally started to criticize them a bit and be upset about something. For the first time in Reddit history, a post that wasn't sucking Blizzard's cock was getting updates, calling out Blizzard behavior, like with how they handled Diablo Immortal. And then from there, it's only been just a downward spiral for the company. You know, with all of the workplace sexual assaults, as well as one of the employees committing suicide because of a bunch of terrible workplace things. Awful shit coming to light with the company. Tons and tons of layoffs. And then even on the game side of things, horrible business decisions with their games, like the Warcraft Reforged. Everything has just been not in Blizzard's favor. People haven't been happy with Blizzard. You know, the whole free Hong Kong thing. Just tons and tons and tons of things that have happened all post Diablo Immortal. And I really think it all started with Diablo Immortal. So this game was really cursed from the get-go for them. And now that it's out, it's even worse than people expected when it comes to microtransactions. I think everyone is really impressed with the game overall. Apparently, from everything I've watched and everyone I've listened to, all the streams I've watched, everyone agrees the game is good. Like, they've made a really good game, especially for mobile. And I agree. I'm not an ARPG guy, but I also think it looks fun. But it is completely overshadowed by how greedy it is. Do you think in-game purchases ruin good games? It depends. I'm of the stance that if it's a purely single-player experience, it's only PvE, pay-to-win elements don't ruin the game. If someone's going to whale out to have fun in a single-player game, that's their right. But once that enters into like a multiplayer experience, then I think it's a problem. Yeah, I also think paid cosmetics are fine, obviously. I don't think anyone has a problem with cosmetics. It's game-changing items, which is why it's pay to win. If you pay money for an item that changes your gameplay, it's pay to win, by its definition. But I'm fine with that when it's a single-player only experience, PvE only experience. I don't really care, because it's just an individual playing the game how they want to play, and they should have the complete freedom to go crazy with it. You know, fucking dumping money out the ass onto the game if they choose. It's just when it's a multiplayer game and it gives you an advantage that it's a problem. The option to pay. And they blatantly say 800% improvement when you pay for it. So when you get flashed, you know, jump scared with their microtransactions, it'll straight up say buying this for $1, $2, whatever it is an 800% buff. Fucking wild. And yeah, like, the value here is nuts. You have to buy it. Your life is incomplete without it. This is why your parents divorced, because you didn't buy our microtransactions.
With the worst, because that's probably what a lot of people are here for. This is...
Where is it? Oh, yeah, there. Look, it tells you plus 800%. Plus 570%. And it's only $1. How can you play the game without that? So it's so predatory. It's like, well, it's only $1. I can justify that for an 800% boost. I'm gonna be going fucking Ultra Instinct in this bitch now. The grind is gonna be so much better. It's gonna be so much more fun. The next thing you know, you got limp dick in your hand and you're down $2,000 because you couldn't help yourself from all the microtransactions here. Because they scale. Starts at $1, but the more you engage in the micros, the more you're going to be spending, and the more expensive the packs become. Are you sure that doesn't mean the value is 800% over the cost? I don't know. I'm not. I haven't played the game. All I'm saying is, I look at this as a player and I see plus 800%, regardless of how they mean it. I'm taking that as, wow, I'm getting a lot if I spend $1 here. 800% sounds scummy. Does it finish the quest without you doing anything? I don't know all the levels to it. It is microed out the fucking wazoo. Every component of this game has some micro to accompany it, whether it's to speed up progression, speed up loot, you name it. There's so many micros. But I don't know if there's like auto quest completer or something. I'm sure there is. There's probably like we'll play the game for you. Have I paid for any mobile games yet? Yes. So I've said this before. The most money I've ever spent on a game is a mobile game. It's Duel Links. So Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. I'm not sure how much I spent in Duel Links. It would probably be north of like $3,000 though, over the course of like a year. And I've never spent money on another video game in my life, except for Master Duel when it came to Steam. So it's card games, really. Card games get to me. You know, you have to build decks, man. And I like to be competitive in my Yu-Gi-Oh. The only two games, three. Only three games I've ever spent money on: Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, and Warframe. I went a little hog wild in Warframe too, but not nearly to the level I did in Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, Pokemon Unite, but that's more of a meme. Like, if I wasn't actively streaming Pokemon Unite, I wouldn't have paid to win for the first 2 days just for fun, just to stomp kids and send them to bed crying. You need to spend money to make a clan. I saw that post. So Diablo Immortal, like, obviously, you know, you're gonna form your groups and everything. A lot of them are requiring that you are a pay-to-win player. So I saw the post where one of the recruiters or whatever, the recruitment board or whatever, specifies that you need to have the battle pass, which you pay for. What else was it? It was like two other pay-to-win components. And I can't remember what they were, but yeah, you are like literally required for these groups, like if you want to get into them, to pay. It doesn't look like they're letting in free to play players. Fun fact: Diablo is no way. Fun fact: Diablo Immortal is made by the same developers as Cyber Hunter. I just don't believe you. They're co-developers. Cyber Hunter is still one of my favorite multiplayer experiences ever. It's on Steam, but there's cross-play with phones, I believe. So you will play against actual kids taking a shit at school and trying to get in a Cyber Hunter game, and you just absolutely slap them. It feels amazing. It's like actually living out a god fantasy. I had so much fun with this game. I feel like I've only scratched the surface on how awful the microtransactions are in this game, because I'm not a player of the game. So I'm only seeing this as an outsider who's reading the articles and watching the videos. I would highly recommend you check out some of the video essays on it, going through just how pay to win it is and how bad it is. Though I have also seen counterclaims that you can still participate as free to play and do, you know, pretty much everything a pay to win player can do. You'll just do it slower. And then I've also seen some data on how long it would take to do some of the things pay to win players do as free to play, and it looks like it'd take years. So if you're free to play and free to play only, it seems like some things that you have access to will still take you years to complete, whereas if you're pay to win, it'll take you minutes to do. So there's just a huge discrepancy between what you get when you're paying versus how you can achieve it as free to play, because they're trying very hard to incentivize people as much as possible to spend money in the game. And it's really aggressive from everything I've read. So I highly encourage you, if you're interested, look at more videos, look at more research from people who have actually been in the game. Like I said, Ziz has a great video on it if you want to see more from that. I'll put a link to it in the description. And this is just something that really surprised me, because I didn't think any company would just be this open with greed. And I think the plan from Blizzard is pretty simple. Go as crazy as possible with microtransactions on launch to get as many whales to invest in it as possible off rip. So you'll have a ton of people spending a ton of money over the course of the first like 2 weeks or whatever, and then you make a big statement, a huge hoopla about, we're listening to our players. You guys are unsatisfied with our model for microtransactions, and we're doing something about it. We're putting the kibosh on it. Our foot's coming down. We're changing the microtransaction model, and then they're going to dial it back as like this big heroic moment. Like, we listened to you guys. We're making it better. Even though from the get-go they knew it was too much, but they also knew people wouldn't care and would spend a ton of money on it. So they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, where it's not a PR disaster and it gives them good brownie points with gamers when they eventually come forward and say, all right, we listened and now we're scaling it back. And I do think they are going to scale it back at some point. But in its current state, I wouldn't recommend the game unless you are purely going to free to play. I highly encourage you, if you're really just having that itch to play Diablo Immortal, play it without spending any money. It is possible. The early game, in fact, from what I've understood, is fine, completely fine, free to play. It's not until you get towards the end game where the pay to win elements really come into full effect. So if you have to play the game, please just don't spend money on it to support this kind of practice, because it's terrible. And if they see huge returns on it, it's really only going to get worse for more games in the future once they can see what they can get away with. So yeah, that's really about it. See ya.